Now, the European football authorities have decided to introduce a new competition, which is not really what football needed, and particularly the top players. It's called the Nations League, and over the last 11 days, players have had to play 4 games. It's very testing for everybody, and the results can be seen particularly in England's performances, which have been, by all accounts, abysmal. To discuss the games, Ireland's games in particular, I'm joined by John Giles and Liam Brady. But just before we begin, we'd like to, the three of us, and I'm sure most Irish soccer fans, pay tribute to Noel Campbell. Noel was a fantastic player, a really, really good man, a great guy, and he died sadly this week. He was aged 72. He was a very, very good player. John, you capped him when you were manager, and he was a really good player, a really good footballer, and a really nice man.
Yeah, he was a good lad, good sense of humour, Eamon, good player, as you said, and really good lad. But, my first contact with Noel, actually, Eamon, was playing for Leeds at Arsenal. And we came in after the match, and this young fella there doing the, cleaning up the dressing room and that.
Yeah.
And he came over to me and he said, how you, Johnny? And a Dublin accent.
Yeah.
I said, where do you come from? He said, I'm a Dub.
Yeah.
He said he was over at Arsenal as a 15-year-old.
Right. Yeah, he's a very good player.
Yeah, he was a very good player. He got a good few caps later on. He didn't make it at Arsenal. He went back to Dublin. I think he played for St. Pat's. Then he went to Germany.
Yeah, in the Bundesliga, yeah.
Yeah, and was very, very good there. Then, yeah, he was a good lad, Eamon. It was, he hadn't been well, I don't think, but it was sad news.
Yeah, Liam, you knew Noel as well. He was a really top-class player and a real top-class man.
Yeah, both things, Eamon. I would totally agree with you. He was a good midfield player. You could see a pass. He could keep the game moving. He was always positive in the way he played. Good tackler as well. He was a strong lad. He was built well,
Yes.
And he got stuck in too. So I became friends with him when John picked me to, become part of the Irish setup in 1974. And Noel and I have been mates all ever since then. And it was a terrible shock when it was actually Mick Martin rang me and told me the bad news. And I was very, very upset, as anybody knew him will be. He was also the caddy master, Eamon, out at the K Club.
The K Club, yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of members of the K Club. He was extremely popular down there, and they're going to be very, very sad as well.
Yes, he was a wonderful man, and with a great sense of humour, John, and a real good football pedigree. And it's sad, genuinely sad, when we lose someone like that at a relatively young age of 72.
Yeah, very, very sad, Eamon. Yeah, I knew he hadn't been well. I'd been in touch with him in recent times. Funny enough, I hadn't rung him for a while, but he hadn't rung me. So it was a bit of a shock, all right. But as Liam said, good footballer. More importantly, he was a good lad.
Yeah, and please God, he'll rest in peace.
Yeah.
John, I want to ask you and Liam about this idea of a Nations League. The last thing players need now, especially the top-class players, is another competition. And there's something slightly farcical about these players, particularly the Premier League players, perhaps, and players who've been involved in European competition, being asked to play 4 games in 11 days with something on them. And it showed, particularly in England's results, that we don't really need a Nations League and more football immediately after the end of the season, do we?
No, it was outrageous, Eamon. But these are the people who run these competitions, whether it's the World Cup or the European Championships, and what they see is another way to make money.
Yeah, television money.
It's money, Eamon. And you see, as we know, we have the World Cup, we have the European Championships, and the players had a rest in between those things. So the guys now in UEFA, or whoever's done it, said, okay, there's another gap there, right?
Yeah.
We can make more money on that because they don't pay the players, Eamon.
Yeah.
They make up the competitions, and this is a money winner for them. They don't care. They're not paying the players' wages.
No.
I mean, it's the clubs that we know, as we know, pay the club players' wages, their fitness and everything else that goes with it. It was totally outrageous from day one that they created this competition. And it's right in the middle of break where players, every second year, they get a break. Now they don't get a break at all.
Yes.
Because you got the World Cup, then you got a gap, then you got the European Championships, then you got this particular competition. And it's ridiculous. And, there's nothing they can do about it, the clubs. I mean, the clubs paid the price. The managers paid the price. Players coming back, playing at this time of the year, in the middle of June, getting injuries, not getting a rest. It's totally outrageous, Eamon. And it's a money maker for people that don't pay the players and have no concerns about the players.
Liam, I wonder what you think about this, and also if you think, as I do and John has just expressed, it's a wonder that we can't stop this nonsense. And it's also a wonder that there's no really outrage in the media about this.
Well, I don't know, Eamon. I've got mixed feelings. I wouldn't be quite as strong as John, because you've always had kind of international matches at the end of the season, or you might have an international tour. You might go away and play games and things like that. So, but it's gone on till yesterday was the 14th of June.
Yeah.
So that is a long time eaten into the time that players should be resting.
Yes.
And for Ireland to have played 4 games, and I think England had the same, it is a bit much. But remember, this Nations League came in to kind of stop these friendly matches when there was 22 players, all getting a game in one team. There were like mass changes at halftime, and the spectacle of those games wasn't very good. Now, you have to say, looking at the Ireland game, looking at the atmosphere that was generated when Ireland beat Scotland last week at the Aviva, there's a lot to be said for it as well. I've got kind of mixed feelings. There's something on the games now, whereas there wasn't. And you look at a full house at the Aviva to see Ireland beat Scotland and the atmosphere that was generated. You think, well, is it a bad thing?
Right. Okay.
I've got mixed feelings.
It wasn't that night. It didn't feel like it that night. John, we started off in the Nations League against Armenia away. We lost 1-0. Armenia are a really poor team. It was a shocking start, and we didn't play well. Stephen picked a strangish team, I thought, but he got savaged afterwards, really savage stuff. Now, Ireland were coming off an 8-game unbeaten run before this match, but our Nations League record stretches back to Martin O'Neill, and it's terrible. It was terrible, and Armenia didn't do anything for it. The criticism was savage, so they were awful. Let me ask you, John, about the game against Ukraine at home, where they made 10 changes because they'd just been knocked out by Wales of their World Cup hopes. They made 10 changes, and they played Ireland off the park in a footballing sense and beat us 1-0. Then we went on to the game that Liam referred to there, the game against Scotland, which was, I thought, an outstanding performance. What did you make of those games, John? In particular, I know the Ukraine game, we were talking during it, they played a very good young side and they really played us off the park.
Yeah, it was a very poor performance, Eamon, and a very, very, very bad result, as we know. I mean, it was the Ukrainian second team.
Yeah.
But I can understand what Liam is saying about the matches. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think it's time for the players to have a rest. I think they know they're going to have a rest. And they didn't seem to be up for it, Eamon.
Yeah.
For either of the matches, Armenia or Ukraine reserves.
Yes.
And I think it was only when they got this terrible publicity, Eamon, that they had to pick it up against Scotland.
Yeah, I think also the fact, John, that you could argue that Stephen Kenny had his players together in a camp for a good stretch, 14, 15 days. And as the tournament progressed, the performances improved. The Scotland performance very good. The performance last night was very good as well. So it did give him a chance, and it did show, I thought, the Scotland game and last night's game, that work was done.
Well, you would expect the work to be done, to be honest, for the first two matches, Armenia and the reserve team. But I think it certainly picked them up with the bad publicity to get in again and produce the good performance against Scotland. I mean, they played Scotland off the park, there's no doubt. But there was a different attitude, Eamon, as we saw, because of the bad results before that. And you'd wonder what happened to Scotland, Eamon.
Yeah,
Scotland were terrible in that match. So I think it was a situation. Again, I'd go back to it. I don't think it's right for the players to be playing at this particular stage here in this particular competition. But anyway, I have a different opinion to Liam on that. But I think when Ireland had to do it, Eamon, they did it. There was two really, really, really bad results. And then against Scotland, and then you'd look at Scotland and say, well, where did they come from?
Yeah.
I mean, they were terrible.
Yeah.
So, all's well that ends well as far as Stephen is concerned. But I'd be like you. I was very surprised at the amount of criticism that Stephen got, having won the previous, 6 or 7 or 8 matches
they were unbeaten
before these particular.
Yeah, they were unbeaten in the eight games before this started off. Liam, perhaps part of the reason for Scotland's performance, part of it was that Ireland played really well, but the other thing, they'd been knocked out of the World Cup by Ukraine, and they would have been very bitter. That was a very bitter experience for Scotland, because they had high hopes, and I thought Ireland played really well and deserved their win.
It did, Eamon, but you remember there was a couple of occasions Dunphy tried to play the ball out of its own box, and
Big
Scotland should have scored twice.
McGinn had
and you
two
kind
chances.
of scratch your head and say, well, why is he doing that, Is Stephen Kenny telling them to do it? Why is he doing it, And we've seen the Irish team do that far too much, in my opinion. So I know Stephen Kenny wants to play football out from the back, but there's a way of doing it. And it certainly wasn't, the right thing for Dunphy to be doing that against Scotland. He could have given 2 goals away.
Yes.
So I'm still scratching my head, Eamon. I know we've talked about this before, and I said, well, the FAI should wait before they give him the contract, and they should wait till now, after he's had these 4 games. And if I was on the FAI, I'd be scratching my head whether to give him a contract or not. A very good result against Scotland, a very good performance. But, a few days before that, Armenia, we got beaten by Armenia. And if we want to do well in this Nations League and improve our coefficient and so forth, our seeding and things like that, to make it easier to qualify for tournaments, you'd have to look at the results and say, well, they haven't been good enough,
Right. The point I would make, I don't agree with you at all, but the point I would make about the first 2 games is they were the first 2 games, and there were injuries, important players missing. Matt Doherty, Seamus Coleman, for example. These were important players. And also, Stephen keeps putting players into the team to give them, Obafemi, who scored a brilliant goal against Scotland and set up a brilliant goal for Troy Parrott, Liam. He was at Southampton. You know the story. He has had hamstring problems. He went to Swansea. He had a really good season at Swansea. So Stephen put him in.
But he didn't put him in against Armenia.
No,
even the selection of the teams and things like that has me a bit confused. Don't get me wrong. I'm not totally against Stephen Kenny. I'm not. I promise you, I'm not.
No, I know
he's
that.
a very hard-working guy, and I admire the way he wants the game to be played. And he has given a lot of young boys, their debuts. He's trying to bring them on. But there's also things that, I scratch my head. Why wasn't Obafemi playing in that game to begin with, Well, that was the game that we should have won, Armenia, and get us off to a real good start.
Yes, I agree with that. And I said it at the time. I thought Jason Knight should have played and started in that game, and he didn't. John, the argument I would make for Stephen is that he is finding players all the time. Troy Parrott has emerged now, and I think he looks like he could be a really good player. Nathan Collins last night scored one of the best goals I've seen for an Irish player for a long time, since maybe you scored on your debut. It was a great goal. He looks like a really seriously good player, John. He's 21. He's played with Burnley. He's got authority, confidence, and loads of skill. So I would argue that Stephen needs to now have a settled side from now on, to have made his mind up. But he has brought players in. They have done well. He's given them the confidence to do well and score a goal like Nathan Collins scored last night.
Well, he looks a very, very promising player, Eamon. I haven't seen him play before for Burnley. Or if I haven't noticed him, but he's been extremely good. And it's all part of the game, Eamon, as we know, to bring young players on. You have to get results as well. I mean, the Armenia result was a really bad result.
Yeah.
And so was the Ukraine result against the reserve team. That was bad results. So, you have to be doing what Stephen's doing, but you have to be getting results along the way against teams that you should be beating, Eamon.
Yeah.
So, but I think the criticism of him in recent times was much fiercer than I expected to be, because he had got very, very good results leading up to these particular matches. Now, the Scottish match was good again. Yeah, it was a good performance, good result. And Ukraine, the other night away, was a fairly good performance. So they're two good results along the way. So you have to be getting the results along the way as you bring these young lads along. So I can understand Liam's point of view, and that's of other people's point of view. It does leave him open for criticism, I mean, when you're not getting the results that you should be getting in these particular matches.
Now, some of the criticism, Liam, is leaked from the FAI, and the way I know that is the journalist who was most savagely against Stephen, and there are a lot of them who have been savagely against him and remain in that way, said in his copy that sources in the FAI, had said there must be a doubt now about Kenny going forward. This was after the second game. This isn't right, is it? When people in the association are briefing against their own international team manager.
No, everybody should be united, Eamon, and supportive of Stephen's position. They gave him the job. Now let them get on with it. He didn't make it easy for himself by saying that he intended to win the group.
No.
Stephen, I thought that was naive of him to say that. Because let's face it, Eamon, and I know you've said it yourself. We haven't got a great team, have we? All these lads that are playing for Kenny, they're not at the top of English football. They're nowhere near it.
No, I mean, they're playing for Rotherham.
He's having to do with a really tough job. But I think he left himself open to that kind of criticism by saying, well, I've had my time to prepare the team, and now we're going to see if we can top the group and then the first game he loses against Armenia. So the press, they get onto those things. Now, what's going on with the FAI, I honestly don't know. No, maybe there were people in there that didn't think he should get a new contract, and there was a disagreement or so forth. But no, we've got to support him now. And I thought the last two games, good for him to bounce back as they did. And the other thing I like about the team, there seems to be a real camaraderie about them.
Yes.
And they're young and they're enthusiastic. And you got to give that credit to Stephen Kenny as well. He's created this. So, but I'd be going into the Euros when the draw is made in October, and then it's next year that we have to try and qualify. Let's hope we can get that improvement, and as you said, get some semblance of a team that he knows is going to do the business for him. A team that's consistent in selection and things like that.
Yes, very much so.
Fast changes, not 3, 4, 5 changes from game to game. I don't think that works. You need a settled team.
Yeah, John, I agree with Liam very strongly on that. And in midfield now, it looks like Malumbi, Cullen and Jason Knight are a 3. They were very, very good against Scotland. They were very good again, I thought, last night. But
Brown has been very good, Eamon.
Yeah, playing as a right back. Yeah, it's not his position. He's a midfield player, I think. Or I'm not sure where he his natural
But
position
he's played best of mid. He's played right side of midfield for a couple of matches there for Ireland. I think he's done really well. I mean, it's a good point for Stephen anyway to have the players. Yeah,
but he needs, as Liam says, and I feel very strongly, to have made his mind up now about his best team or close to it, and that's the team that needs to play when we get to the Euro qualifiers. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you have to get to a stage. I mean, when I said early on, Eamon, in my opinion, it takes about, now this is our club football, about 8 matches.
Yeah.
8 matches to 9 matches to know your best team. Now, it's different in international football because you're not playing every week. But I think in Stephen's case now, with the amount of matches he has, he should know pretty well, or very, very well in his head, what's my best team now.
Yes.
And then the more you play them together, the better.
Yeah. Okay, now John and Liam. Liam, let me start with you. England, unbelievable, with all their best players playing. Last night, beaten 4-0 at home by Hungary. They lost 1-0 away to Hungary, and they drew the other 2 games. Again, I would say, very different situation because they have players like Harry Kane, big players who were playing Champions League, or rather were playing for a Champions League place, were in the Premier League, were playing in Europe, and yet I thought their results showed. I didn't see any of the performances, but I thought the results are shocking. And I understand that in some English papers today, they're calling for Gareth Southgate's head.
Well, yeah, it's not surprising. It's a drubbing, isn't it? 4-0 away to Hungary, and Hungary wouldn't be considered one of the best teams in Europe, not by any stretch of the imagination.
It's 4-0 at home, Liam.
Yeah, I know. Well, and there's also a lot of people still blaming him that they didn't win the Euros. They didn't go for it against Italy when they went 1-up. They sat back and things like that. So the press will have all these kind of things ready, and the players have probably switched off, and they probably didn't want this competition.
Yes,
a lot of them have been playing at the highest level in Champions League, and the Man City run in with Liverpool and so forth, and they probably thought, well, why are we playing these games? But for Gareth Southgate, it's not good news, is it? To get beat 4-0 by Hungary, they're going to have the knives out for them.
Yeah, and John, I mean, they would be one of the favourites going into the World Cup, wouldn't they? They got to the semi-final last time. And I would
imagine so, Eamon. But it's amazing the way, again, the press has gone. He's gone from saint to sinner in 2 or 3 matches, Eamon.
11 days.
It's just amazing. Yeah. I mean, again, I think that Liam hit it as well with the players that have played at huge big matches. Yeah. They've been in the Champions League. Most of them been in the Champions League and big matches and cup finals and everything else. To go into a Mickey Mouse competition like this now is not easy. And from Southgate's point of view, I mean, they've turned on him very, very, very strongly. Yeah. From being a saint. Yeah. It's just amazing. And I'm talking about the press now generally, but you would again expect the team with the amount of players that he has. Yes. And younger players, that haven't played that many matches or needed a chance to get in the team, would be good enough to get the much better results than they have been getting in this competition. You would expect that, but to turn on him the way they've turned on him is amazing. Actually, he left himself a little bit open when I had his comments last week. He was getting some criticism, and he was sort of saying, "Well, if they don't like it, I'll just retire."
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he shouldn't be. I don't think he should be talking like that. He should be saying, "No, we're getting on with the job and introducing young players and doing what needs to be done." But again, it's results, and the press will go on results. If you're not getting results, you're going to kill you. If you're going to get good results, they're going to be praising you too much.
Especially,
but it has been bad results for England. There's and 4-0 at home. I mean. Yeah. Really, I mean, that leaves himself open.
Yeah,
it leaves himself open for the criticism that he's getting at the moment.
Okay, John and Liam, very grateful to you both for joining us today, and I hope you have a nice close season, and I won't be bugging you for a while, but we're thankful, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of everybody who listens. I know I do, to John and Liam for their contribution